This call is being recorded.
All of those.
9 o'clock. Good morning. We're going to call the meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council meetings can take place in person as long as physical distancing of 2 meters can be maintained between participants. At this time, according to Alberta Health, public attendance at council meetings should be facilitated through virtual means. If you've submitted a comment request, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. The chair might also ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic, and at this time, phone lines will be unmuted. If you would like to speak, please state your name. We ask that only one member of the public speak at a time. All persons will be allotted 10 minutes to speak as per our procedural bylaw. We ask that if the meeting recesses, that any callers hang up and call back in as the meeting reconvenes. This helps with call quality. Please note this call is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website and/or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the Municipal Government Act, Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. Due to the hybrid meeting that we're conducting, we will conduct a roll call. Reeve Link is present. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Here.
Councillor Wilson.
Present.
Councillor Bigger. Here. Councillor Eichert.
Present.
Councillor Kester.
Present.
And Councillor Armstrong.
Present.
Additionally, our voting procedure will be modified for our hybrid meetings. I will call for any councillor who is opposed to a motion to indicate verbally. For any motions with expressed opposition, we will conduct a roll call vote. We have an agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions or changes?
Through the chair, yes, I'd like to have one in-camera issue that I'd like to discuss with council. Need to know what it is.
Even just the FOIP section?
Just, no, it's about Remedex. Just some.
So, yeah. Interests of a third party. We'll find the FOIP.
Well, it's on.
Yes, thanks, Jason. Section 16. I have a cheat sheet, but I just thought I'd look after.
It's on there.
Madam Reeve, it is included on the agenda. You'll see.
Land matter potential development.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Any other additions or changes to the agenda?
And Madam Reeve, it's Matt from administration. Just a suggested order change, 4.4.5. Could we just push that down, and then 4.4.4, just a little swap there. So deferral of payment for business-related development permits presented before supporting Alberta business temporary patios.
Yes, so switch 4.4 and 4.5, the order. Any other additions or changes? A motion to accept or to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Councillor Armstrong has moved. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We have the minutes from our regular council meeting, April 20th.
I'll move as presented.
Councillor Wilson has moved. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. I move that the process for the Wheatland County Council meeting, as it pertains to the scheduled public hearings, will be as follows. Public hearing, first reading if required, then consideration for further readings of bylaw for those public hearings that have been closed. I further move that the above process will take place with the absence of resolutions to go into and out of council before and after each public hearing. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2021-03.
Yes, hello? Bryce here. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties signing in. I just got signed in. Right now we're presenting the public hearing for a road closure bylaw 2021-03. This was brought forward to council earlier for first reading on March 23rd, and this would be for, you're recommending going forward with the public hearing. After the public hearing, if the public hearing is approved, this will be coming back to council for second and third reading.
Thanks, Bryce.
Available for any questions. Thank you.
And if I can just ask, does any member of the public have an objection to any councillor sitting on council for the public hearing? And can administration please verify that notice of the public hearing was circulated in accordance with the MGA?
Yes, I can verify.
Thank you. And are there any written submissions?
No.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I typically do that right when I open it, so my apologies. Did you have anything further you wanted to present, Bryce?
Not at this time. Like I said, once completed, it will be coming back for second and third readings.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any persons who would like to speak who are in support of the application? Any persons with concerns or opposed to the application? Any final comments from staff?
No comments.
Any questions regarding the application from council? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing for bylaw 2021-03. I'm just checking. Bryce, were you looking for first reading today? Yes.
So first reading has already been completed, and then I think we're going to bring back second and third. Yeah. So.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you, Brian.
Nope, my apologies. Thank you. We will move to 3.1, I believe, unless I'm missing. Nope, we'll move to 3.1. Reeves report, it is included in the package. Just a note, there has been some really good results from our resolution around cannabis recently. So MP Dancho and MP Shields are working with some of the other rural MPs to try and effect change with the Health Act as well. Within correspondence, you'll see a letter from Minister Taves that he'll be taking into consideration the work that was done for the resolution when they're engaging on the Health Act as well with the federal government. So that was a good meeting. Community Futures continues to do really good work with the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund, supporting many businesses in the region and businesses owned by Wheatland County residents. I love the new logo for the Egg Services Board. And it was an honor to present that award to Rod and Beth Vergowan and their family. Exciting work being done with the Next Level Signage Committee. Attended the WID AGM just on behalf of council. I did put a little bit of detail just around the visioning with the CMRB. The one thing that I would highlight is that they have created a corporate, like for the entire, more focused on the board, vision documents of purpose, customer mission values, critical success factors, and decision-making rules, as well as a vision document for the region. And I did just include a section of it that I disagree with regarding the voting structure. And within those documents, it states that although a formal voting structure is required in any organization, it should be viewed as a safety net and not as the primary mechanism for making decisions. And I in no way can see how the voting structure of the CMRB is a safety net. And they are also going to add in just acknowledging the appeal mechanism regarding revisiting decisions. I'll move my report as presented. Happy to answer any questions. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. And just for interest, there are some return on investment documents from the library for both Wheatland County, and they also include the ones for other libraries, even within the villages that we have ratepayers that utilize. And then I also included the annual report just for people's interest. I'll just move that we accept those as information. Happy to answer any questions. Is anyone opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.2, Deputy Reeves' report.
Thank you. My report is on page 88 of the council agenda package. Everything's there. The one thing I did not put in, I forgot to, was April 2021. We'd had a WRC meeting. Discussion there was some discussion about Hazar and about what their next moves are, if they're going to stay on the board or look into their costing and what their future is if they want to be there. The other one, big discussion was on Redland. There was some things brought back from Mayor Bork about residents up there that want to hook onto the system. Tom and I both brought forward that we had talked to them before, and it was an issue of basically funds. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know, Tom, anything else you can think of?
Yeah, because I'm fairly well, I was under the impression that the county had reached out to each and every individual in Redlands. And when it was the fact that this was going to probably cost money, that they were not interested in, which is their choice. So yeah, so I was sort of surprised at the conversation, but I'm pretty sure that administration had contacted everybody, and we had a pretty good feel of what was going on there.
And we've been circulated those results twice now.
Yeah.
Because we don't seem to.
But I do know WRC had put a stop in for the area if future is there, so.
So there was discussion, was there any decision at WRC regarding that?
Yeah, I think, I believe Darcy maybe was going to bring something back. Glenn might know something more.
Yeah, good morning. Redland residents reached out to me and I had a meeting with them, and Jason Nibbs was there. There's 10 want water. They were confused, I guess, on the initiative so far. Anyway, Jason's going to work on it and get some pricing. And I'll be bringing it back. Yeah, they want water. They can't drink their water. And they always were under the impression that they were going to get water because the pipe run through the middle of the hamlet. And just for your information, there is no stub on the line for hookup. They're able to, I forget the exact term, but they can hot tap into that line at any time and get water. And Jason is licensed to do that. So, yeah, it's a work in progress. And, yeah, I'll fill you in as I learn more about it.
So would we not want to have this engineered? We like Jason Nibbs going to give us an engine, like, because we've known what's happened in the past when we've allowed hamlets to do stuff, and it's always been down the road. It's always cost us a lot of money. Like we're discussing what happened in Rosebud about putting in because they decided to run in 3-inch lines, what it would cost to put in a real, like, so should this not be engineered? Like, should we not be, I'm just wondering why I would allow anybody, I wouldn't allow my own construction company to put an estimate onto a bid on somebody else's land. Like that's to be foolhardy on behalf of the county.
CAO Henderson, can you speak to what might be the most appropriate process, or perhaps what we may have done in the past in a similar situation? I hear what you're saying, Councillor Eichert, because I'd be concerned we would need some validity to any cost estimates. I believe we provided some cost estimate when we did the public engagement with the residents. There was estimates that were done. I believe those were developed in-house based on estimates of what it might cost, but
yeah, so just for answering the administration. So back when we did the engagement, we had had some preliminary work done by SEMA to understand what a distribution system would look like in that area. So it was actually SEMA that did provide us that cost estimate. I think there are a variety of different options that we could do. I was talking to our manager of technical services yesterday, and potentially an option for Redland residents would be to hook onto the system as a WRC rural user. We'd have to kind of work with the WRC on that and just fully understand. Costs may differ for the residents in Redland just based on where they are situated off of the main line. So someone within a close proximity would most likely have to pay less than someone that would be a farther distance away from that line. Just the cost of material and time to kind of install. But there are options for residents out there looking to kind of tap into that line. I think we just have to kind of further explore those options, and if people are interested, we can certainly work with them. We're just kind of exploring options, and it definitely will cost residents money to hook onto the line, but that is the reason why it went past there. So that's kind of what I would have. And as for like engineered work, I think we would definitely want that in that area. So it would need to be some sort of engineered design to ensure that it runs off the system correctly. There's no kind of flow issue problems. So that would kind of just be my answer to that. Thank you.
Thanks, CAO Henderson.
Comment.
Yep, please go ahead, Councillor Custer.
In reference to Rosebud, that system was engineered. That was the way it was designed, and that's the way it ran for numerous years. There was nobody looked at it for over 20 years, and I think that led to some of its failure. That's another story. But it was a design system, and it was designed to run that way, and it run untouched for 20 years. In Redland, Jason is looking at it because council led everyone to believe you weren't interested in funding it. And if they're going to hook on as a rural user, they had no interest in engineering it. Jason was going to do pricing as if they were rural users. And he was also going to do a pricing of running a 2-inch main down, say, the center of the hamlet. And that way that would allow for future hook-ons. Be closer, right? Just the way you do it in any other hamlet. And there was also a question of help from the county in the way of debentures. I didn't think it was time to bring it to the county without any prices. I'm well aware of what the pricing was from MPE, the engineers, and that's what council's seen, was the 300,000 plus to do it. And they said they would, county said in their letter that if you put up $30,000, we could probably get you water. Well, they think they can do it for a lot less. And I believe half of the hamlet could probably hook up there for, I mean, they're 50 feet from the line. And if they don't need a vault, if WRC doesn't need a vault for them, it's only 50 feet of trenching and a meter. That is not $30,000. So that's what they're concerned about, was the price from the county. So let them get their price and see what it is, and I'll bring it back to council for your information and hopefully for some possible involvement into the future. But it's just in the preliminary stages. And I know Jason's busy with the lagoon there in Rosebud, so I don't know how far he's gotten. I know they walked the whole hamlet, and he's going to send his draftsman, his surveyor out to get accurate measurements to everybody, and they'll come up with a design. I'm confident in their process for sure.
I'm sorry, I'm confused in the area, but is not wherever that, as I remember what we've seen from administration, that piping is going to have to go through county-owned land, is it not? Like it's going to be a back alley or a main roadway or something.
Yes, it'll have to go down the road approaches, the same as the pipelines went from Galician to Rosebud. It's went down road approaches. We're not asking for anything different.
But it would.
But they haven't asked yet. They haven't asked yet. I mean, wait for the plan before we start.
I'm just trying to save somebody a bunch of work here, because this sounds really, for lack of a better word, fly-by-nightish. I mean, we are then going to allow something that is on county property to be, I mean, like, if Donna gets somebody that wants to do a subdivision, we just allow them to run a 2-inch water line out to the subdivision? No, we don't do that. We do things properly, and this should be done properly, and I believe it has been done properly. We've spent the time and money on it already. We know what the baseline cost is, so I don't see what how this works, but so be it.
Yeah, and just
there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 residents live within 30 feet of the water line. They can hot tap into it right then and there. 30 feet. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 under construction. Maybe not all of them want a house. They're a little longer run. 2 stone throws. That's where maybe the 2-inch goes in. We're not talking a big project, even the size of Rosebud. MPE designed what they designed, but in my gut, feel that $30,000 a resident is out to lunch. Wait for Jason's numbers to come back, and we'll see, and we can talk about it then, but we're just hypothetically talking. And if the county doesn't want to be involved, they will ask for permission to put it down the road allowance, the same as the rest of the county, and they'll do a WRC hookup. No different than the other 5 people that live on the outskirts of the hamlet to get crossing agreements to get water to their homes. It'll be WRC, but wait for the numbers and compare them to the engineer and see if you think the engineer report is worth it or not. That's my advice anyway.
I'll go back to my report. I think there's a lot of discussion on this that needs to be done in the future. There's parts of the hamlet that are within a hamlet. There's parts that are outside the hamlet, some of these residents. We've gone over it. I think we should look at this as a separate issue at a future date. But I'll move my report as presented. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions for Deputy Reeve Clausen? I do agree. I would like some more information, likely from our administration. I suspect there are some distinctions between servicing a hamlet and perhaps rural residents, but I obviously do not know enough about this. So I think as things progress, it would be good if council gets more information from the board and perhaps administration. I don't even know what information we'll need, but there will be more, I'm assuming. I don't know if council wants to put some direction into that now or wait. I'm just thinking perhaps some advice from administration on what our responsibilities are, what our long-term liabilities are, if we are servicing a hamlet or an entity is servicing a hamlet within our municipality. Those would be some of my questions. What are our long-term liabilities, responsibilities, that type of thing? I don't know. Anybody else? We could put a motion forward following your motion, just requesting information around that if council wishes, or we can wait. I'm easy.
I believe this is happening. Well, there's lots of work going on now, and we need some direction as to what we are expected from the county for servicing. If it's going to be WRC running the whole thing, then that's different at some point. If there's no expectation of the county to ever repair anything or that kind of thing, we need some clarity on that. So, but yeah, my report, and I can put a motion forward.
Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried.
Opposed to what?
Moving Scott's report was the motion that was on the floor that we were dealing with. Sorry, I should have clarified. Just accepting Scott's report.
Removing his report. Okay, I agree to this report as information.
Motion is carried. Does council want a motion arising?
I'll put a motion forward that we get staff to look into this issue again with just the information we heard today about what our infrastructure engineering department feels is appropriate servicing for that area, and just look at the whole thing and expect who's going to run it, that kind of thing.
On the hook for.
Yeah, would you mind just a friendly amendment around responsibility and liability?
Yeah, for liability as well. Thank you.
Any questions on the motion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. And my apologies, I do have to just step out of council twice today. Once now, just briefly, Scott's going to assume the chair, and once at 10:30, and I'll be back as soon as possible. My apologies. Yeah, that's not happening.
So we'll move on to 3.3, Division 1 Council Report.
All I have there is the ASB notes, as I didn't attend any committee meetings and just attended the council and MPC I was planning on attending the handy bus, but it was the day Rogers went out all over Canada, so I was not able to make phone calls, texts, or anything like that. So I will move my report as presented.
Okay, any questions? Motion on the floor? Is anyone opposed to the motion? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. We'll move on to 3.4, Division 3 Councillor Report. Go ahead.
Thank you. We're getting closer to the next level planning with the logo to signage. The economic development, we've had a meeting with the two members. Be coming back with some action plans from the committees. And yeah, everything else is there. So I'll move my report as presented.
Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, don't be shy.
Any questions on Division 3 report?
I'm just got one on the what dams are we're going to purchase 2 ambulances, so I guess the other ones are at end of life kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what does an ambulance cost?
I don't know. Glenn is. Yeah,
ambulances cost in the neighborhood of 140,000. We don't purchase the ambulances; we lease them as our agreement with AHS. But the bookkeepers look at it as a purchase because the lease agreements are such that it appears that you're purchasing them, right? There's not much of a residual value at the end of the lease period. So they look at it as purchase, hence the confusion. But in all essence, it's lease because that's the way the Alberta government functions. But I think they're around 130 to 50,000. I don't know, steel, depends on the vehicle. I'm thinking they'll probably be going to gas. We had diesel ones, we had nothing but trouble with them. So hopefully that answers. And they're pretty well miled out too. I forget the miles on them. Yeah, they get used a lot.
And this is just for my own information. So for 140,000, you just get the shell, and then you have to. Or
that's complete. That's complete, Tom.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
When we get it, we have to stock it, put the drugs in it, and equipment in it, stretchers, and whatnot, and and then fill it with fuel, and away you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Any other questions on the report? If not, I'll call the motion. Any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried. We'll move on to 3.5, Division 4 Councillor Report.
My report's on page 97 of the agenda package. I think everything has been touched on, so I will move my report as. Any questions?
Any questions for a Division 4 Councillor? Call the question. Any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried. Go on to
Not right now. I will be maybe at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
We'll move on to Division 6 Council Report, item 3.6 in the report. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, my report's on, I think, pretty much everything's been touched on except Wheatland Housing. On May the 13th, a Thursday. I think that's 13th. Let me check here on my calendar. Yeah, on May the 13th, we're having another Zoom meeting with the architect. Entire community's invited. And I was asking Wheatland County if they could put a link on the Wheatland County, I don't know what to call it, website, Facebook page, a link to and advertise for this meeting. It's going to have a couple pictures on it, and it's going to hopefully have some pricing done. And it should have an environmental report there too. So it's an update for the community for sure. So again, that's I believe at 7 o'clock on May the 13th. Hopefully everyone can attend. And yeah, everything else has been touched on. I'll move my report. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, I do have a few questions actually. A question for sure. Do we have any idea on government funding for the new project, whether that be provincial or municipal? Because I've had residents ask that and I can't give them an answer.
We're still waiting on the expression of interest. We haven't heard anything. That was, our impression was the last Christmas we would have got an answer. Haven't heard anything on that expression of interest. For me, that's the most important thing when we find out that expression of interest. The government's well aware of what we're doing. We update them regularly, and they haven't got any questions. They're just waiting for the process to follow through. So when we get, we should have a pretty detailed budget coming by May 13th. And we should have a pretty good cost estimate. And then we can start looking for funding. But again, it's that expression of interest that it hinges on. And who delivers the care in the lodge. And yeah, that's all I know. Sorry.
And you have no idea on municipal funding either, I take it, as we haven't talked about it here?
No, we haven't talked about it anywhere from municipal funding. In the old days, I'll say, previous government before NDP was an 80-20 split, or 80% government and 20% municipal. Government nowadays are looking for partners. So we have one partner for sure signed up is the Hospice Society. And we have another interested party. When I know more about that, I can certainly share that, but that belongs to the board right now. So, and how much money they bring, I can't tell you either.
The concerns I'm hearing from my residents, and not just my residents, some town residents and other Wheatland County residents, is the money you're spending prior to having funding in place. Because we're spending thousands of dollars and we don't even know if we have the money to build this, and they see that as a waste. And not only that, but I think, again, I go back to management of expectations. And when we have the interim CAO of Town of Strathmore saying this will be built in 2 years, which he said last Wednesday at the council meeting, that doesn't look good. If he's saying that, if he's committing to that, and we don't have funding in place, we don't know if the province is on board, we don't even know what we're spending, and people are going to be expecting this in 2 years, that board needs to understand that they are backing the municipalities into a corner that it's going to be tough to come out of. If that's their intent, good job, but that is not what I like to see coming from a board.
For me, this is the process we've been asked to follow, to get a plan and put a price on it. You can't get a price without getting plans. You can't. It's not like buying a truck and saying, oh, I got a few $1,000, we can go buy a truck, and that's the one I can afford for that price. We did a needs assessment. We know what we needed. We presented that needs assessment to the province. They disagreed with our numbers. We asked them to look at it again. They did. They come up with a priority, and Strathmore was one of them, of 31 communities in the province. Priority for double the beds that we wanted to have. We know in our needs assessment we needed more beds, but we took a conservative approach. The province really did the numbers and come out with this expression of interest. That is the process the government asked us to follow.
So I'm asking you as the board chair, do you have an issue with the interim CAO of a partnered municipality committing somebody else's funding, no matter where it comes from, for this lodge to be built in 2 years? Are you okay with the Town of Strathmore CAO saying that in public meetings?
He's the CAO of Strathmore Council, not the CAO of Wheatland Housing.
I'm aware of that, but he's still committing.
Wheatland Housing, I can't help what the different councils say. I can't help what this council says. I can only help.
But that affects the board you chair, Glenn. That affects the public opinion of the project that you guys are working to build.
If there's a problem with that, we'll discuss it at the week. I can't say unilaterally outside of a housing board meeting without the backing of the board on what another council says. That's just not the right way to do things.
Then I won't ask the board chair, I'll ask the members sitting at the table. Are you okay with a CAO of a different municipality committing for this project to be built in 2 years?
Speaking for myself, I'm a little reticent whenever I hear something like that, because I don't know how that, like, I have no idea what the funding model or the building model is at all. Like,
I don't either.
Like, we have gone so far down the road that anything that we have that was sort of a business model, I don't think applies anymore, because the business model that Glenn, and correct me if I'm wrong, the business model that we first discussed, which paid off in like sort of 16 years down the road, still needed $7.5 million equity funding, I believe, were the starting numbers. And I believe the build cost is probably pretty close to what it is. And with the town of Strathmore donating the land and we matching it, that's coming up to about $2 million, $1 million on each end. So
you're short.
I think we're short. So I don't like, so I am, so when another municipality says, put sort of a line in the sand date, it does definitely concern me.
Donna?
Oh, for sure. I didn't actually hear it though, but yeah, for sure, if that's what's happening.
Well, you can go and watch it. It's publicly recorded.
I will.
So there is concern from the boards. Just another question. Do you have the total number of dollars spent so far on this project and councillors' time going to subcommittee meetings?
I don't have a total. I believe the budget, we passed the motion on the board, 800,000 and maybe 830,000, that ballpark-ish, to get it to construction phase, pre-construction. That's what detailed planning drawings.
You get it to that phase, spending just under $1 million, and don't get approval from the provincial government for funding. You don't have commitment from municipalities. You don't know if that's going to go forward, even after you spent $830,000. That's big concerns for residents, especially in today's time of what could be the biggest recession this country's seen. So there's just a lot of issues on fiscal responsibility from my standpoint and that board.
Council, just Brian from administration. Maybe this is just a suggestion, so take it for what it's worth, but maybe perhaps a presentation from the WHMD representatives who are kind of in charge of the project, and someone who may have the technical background to the plans where it's currently sitting, just so everyone's kind of on the same page. Just a friendly suggestion. Maybe we could reach out to them and see if they'd like to present to County Council.
Yeah, I'd love to see a presentation, as seems like the members are even in the dark.
Yeah, I think
We're having a presentation on May 13th by the architects to bring everyone up to date.
And I'm sorry, Glenn, did you say that, like, numbers, costs and everything were going to be then too at that same presentation?
That was part of the previous motion, that we would get a budget
Yeah.
included for that money. Now, I would hope it would be done.
Okay.
I'm not the architect, and I don't know where they are in the planning stage, but that was our target,
So
to have a budget.
what's the board's plan going forward if there is no provincial funding?
This plan belongs to the board. We made sure of that when we hired the architect. If for any reason the plan is stalled, it is our plan, and it is just put on the shelf until there is a favorable time. You can take it off the shelf and build it. There's only updates would have to be on this plan would be any changes in the federal building codes. It is not a loss of money. We know that it is needed. It is needed greatly. It's not an issue of not building it or building it. It's an issue of when. The care needs are continuing to grow in the community. I'm confident that it will be built. Maybe not in 2 years. I would hope it would be, but maybe it's 5 years. The plan is ours. A lot of times the architect, you hire on an architect, the plan stays with the architect, and it forces you into having a relationship with them. So for whatever reason, it is our plan. We don't have to rehire. Just continue on. And this is how Mountain View has built the last 2 lodges. This is how they're helping Mehill build the lodge in Trochu. This is how the lodges are getting built down in Crow's Nest Pass. This is how the procedure is going forward. You're competing for provincial dollars. You have to compete for them. If you go to the provincial government and say, we want $50 million for a new lodge, he says, well, what are you building? Well, I think it's going to be this or that. Or if you go to the provincial government and say, we would like $50 million and here's our plans, detailed, and we can put a shovel in the ground next week.
But even if you had funding agreements from the municipalities that are in the region, the province would look at that more favorably, but you guys don't even have that.
The only request they have is a commitment and land. We have a commitment from Whitland County to match the land from Strathmore, and that seems to be all they ask for. Do you have the land? Now, the presentation on May 13th, Strathmore Council's committed the land in a motion. But we don't know about the geotechnical studies yet. I haven't seen that report. It's been done, tested. I don't know if the complete report is done yet or not. It was supposed to be done maybe this week, late last week. I haven't heard. Hopefully by May 13th, we'll know. If we have a favorable geotechnical report, we will probably have secure that land. Those are the only questions the provincial government asks. Do you have the land? I'm just going by what they ask of us, and we're crossing off, ticking every box off. How can I ask Wheatland County or Strathmore or any of the communities, Rocky Ford, Standard as are, to commit funds to the building? I don't know how much it is.
Well, we have a good idea, as we had a joint call between at the regional partnership meeting. We did have a presentation in February, and
yes,
that question was asked, and they did have a good idea on numbers. So
they're still valid. Yes, Jason, they're still valid for that project, but that might not be the project. The expression of interest is what's going to drive it. The government's committed to them 31 communities in the province. That's what's going to drive it.
So what's the max amount of time you guys are going to be waiting on the expression of interest until you decide they are not going to be part of the solution?
We've been waiting since Christmas time. I've been asking. How
long are you willing to wait was the question.
Whatever it takes. That we're dealing with the provincial government. I don't want to jeopardize the care in the greater Wheatland area on the timeline. This care will build the lodge. It built the last lodge. We lost it during the Klein era. We're asking for it back. It's part of the expression of interest. It's the care. That money stays. It's like the school system. The money goes with the resident. The resident has to go to Calgary, then the money goes there. Money coming from our community going to Calgary. That money can stay in our community and pay for the lodge. It's something you just have to wait for. I don't know what's taken the government so long. It's probably other things on their plate. I can't answer that. But that expression of interest is paramount. It's crucial to the future of the lodge. It goes from being self-sufficient to the model you heard in February, maybe an 80-20. County will have to come up with, municipalities will probably have to come up with another 10 or 15 million bucks, 20 million, I don't know.
Well, that's all I wanted to
sit and wait.
Hear public.
Yeah, we can sit and wait for the expression of interest. I don't know if the board is going to be wanting to carry on without knowing the expression of interest. That's a board decision, and we haven't asked that question yet. We're just carrying on, getting some plans, getting a price, and if we get the expression of interest, we'll deal with it. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to avoid any questions or dance around them. That's all I know. And I don't know if Tom or Donna know any more than I do, but that's all I know.
Yeah, I have no further questions.
We're acting on faith.
I have no further questions. I would just reiterate the concerns I have as a fiscally responsible conservative, and the concerns raised by some of my residents that whether you wait another year or two, it's the money you guys are spending while waiting that is a concern. So I have no other questions.
Is there any other questions? Good discussion, good questions. I've heard the same thing from some of my residents asking questions that I can't answer. I look at it as I think the message needs to get out there that we're waiting on this expressive interest. That's the key to the whole project, and if we don't get that out there, how do people expect? If we don't get that answer, we can't do anything. So I think that's pretty important to know. But there's a motion on the floor to accept.
Just one more thing, Glenn, and you might be able to answer this question, because I think the interim CEO of Strathmore also mentioned that this project could go ahead with private funding, and that and I don't even that doesn't like so. I think we have to, as a board, get this messaging out here that if it's going to go ahead with private funding, we have to be able to provide a model, I think, of what that would look like, so that we can get people on board.
Okay, Tom, in the Gary Gordon report, if you remember, the funding, the idea was to mortgage the building, look for a favorable mortgage. That's the private funding. There are people out there willing to invest in a lodge because it's long-term, stable, more or less guaranteed income. That's the private funding. Pay the mortgage off. That's the trick. We were hoping in the Gary Gordon report that the province would pay a good chunk of the mortgage, and the municipalities, whatever is left. That was in the Gary Gordon report. That's the way we can build it. That is the one option. Another option is the expression of interest. If we get that built, we just need interim financing for interest payments, I would think. Maybe the bank would relax them, add them on, I don't know. So we get income coming from the lodge. So that is the private contributions. We're not looking, I don't believe.
Correct me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, Glenn, but you can requisition interest rates, interest from the county?
We can requisition operating deficits from municipalities. Any other money we get from the municipalities are called operating agreements, loan agreements, whatever you want to call them, put a name on it. They're individual agreements you broker with the municipalities. They are all over the province. They shouldn't be called requisitions to cover. You can requisition for operating deficits and for reserve. The reserve that mostly in the reserve we're spending now come from the days when we had a care branch, home care, operating out of the lodge. These reserves, there are some money in there because we have surpluses every year. And we've gotten lucky the last couple of years getting grants for roofing and sprinklers and windows and paint. We're able to put that away. That is the money, our reserves, for what we're building for the plan. Those reserves are put away for a new build. And I'm thinking we're being quite diligent. We're holding our architect to the grindstone, getting things done. So if there's any money to be paid on the capital portion of this, there has to be an agreement made with all the municipalities.
So I think if I understood correctly what Councillor Eichert was referring to, and please clarify if I misunderstood, is a question around what the debt servicing might cost or look like. And I do recall I did ask that when this idea was first introduced when I was sitting on the housing board. So, Councillor Kester, if I recall correctly, I believe the plan you're referencing did not speak to debt servicing. I believe that plan was based on the premise of the previous model where the provincial government was investing in the capital funds, absolutely recognizing that typically that is with obviously land available and some level of municipal contribution. But I don't recall, and I do think it is a really key thing for both our ratepayers, but also for us as a council to understand in what that could look like in terms of cost and whether that would be cost recovery and if that would increase costs to the residents to then be, because right now you're saying that the lodge is operating with a surplus each year, but I guess the assessment would have to be, the analysis would have to be, is that a surplus that has been operating with, and I'm not sure, I don't know if it should be called a surplus because I think then we wouldn't be being requisitioned properly. But if there's, for example, money that has been set into an established reserve, perfectly within the legislation. But I think it's just really important to understand the realities of what that debt servicing would look like. You can say just a mortgage payment or just the interest, but if you're talking about a potentially, and just totally estimating, say $50 million or $60 million based on some of the estimates I've heard through public engagement or through presentations to different boards we sit on more recently, that could still be a significant amount of money, even just to debt service, even a low interest mortgage rate. I'm not going to run it right now, but I'm thinking millions of dollars potentially each year. I'm just trying to run the math in my head. I won't be able to do it. It would depend on your interest rate, of course, too, but I think that is substantial. And then I think the other key thing, and I still do hear this occasionally, is just the expectation management. And I know I've said that before, and certainly from the information that I've gotten, it's not necessarily consistent with the impression that people have gotten from some of the engagement. And so I just direct them to the housing board to ask questions, because that way they can get the most up-to-date information, because I haven't been involved in that. But I do think we just want to be really careful in making sure that the expectations of our ratepayers are accurate. And I think for us as a council, it would be good to know what potential financial impacts are being considered as the majority funder of the lodge.
Okay, I'll say it again. May 13th, we're hoping to have a more specific budget prepared by Barry Architects. If you go back to the Gary Gordon report that I believe everyone has copies of, the debt servicing for a $42 million loan, this off the top of my head, was a little in excess of $2 million. And if we got the care component of it, after 10 or 17 years, the thing begins operating in the black. That's all I know. The Gary Gordon report is a year and some old. That's the only budget financing spreadsheets that were done that was presented to the provincial government, Minister of Seniors, and they had no qualms about it. We took that report and we're developing further plans according to their direction. On May 13th, we maybe have a better budget. They were going to break it down into what the municipalities' share were. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what the numbers look like. The province wants partnerships. We're busy looking for them. We'll see what happens.
Okay, we do have a 10 o'clock appointment, so if there's, I'd hate to cut this short, do we want to continue this discussion after that appointment, or do we want to call the question?
I think we can move the report. I would just, like 2 seconds, I would just make sure the board brings back the concerns I have with the interim CEO of Strathmore committing to having this built in 2 years, which was said publicly in last week's council meeting. Thank you.
I've noted that, and I will bring it up.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to accept Division 6 Council report as information. Discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. I'll turn the meeting back over to Reeve Link as she stepped back in the room.
My apologies for having to excuse myself. We'll move to 2.211, 2021 Community Enhancement Grant Funding. We have a 10 o'clock appointment.
Good afternoon, or good morning, Council. I'm here to introduce the board chair for the Community Enhancement Regional Board. The board is made up of 2 reps from each division, and Marcy Field is the chairperson of the board, and she has a presentation for Council.
Thanks, Mr. Rems. Good morning, Marcy.
Good morning, Amber. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm presenting on behalf of the board, and I know you guys have the written report, but for the record, I'm just going to read it. Annually, the Wheatland County Community Enhancement Regional Board, CURB, meet to review, evaluate, prioritize, and decide the distribution of funding set aside in the Community Enhancement Reserve. This program began in 2012 and to date has contributed $3,981,366 for the enhancement and betterment of Wheatland County. Applications from nonprofit organizations within the county were accepted in January 2021, and the board met via Zoom video on March 23rd and April 8th, 2021 to review these applications. Board members assembled to undertake the task of reviewing 47 applications, including a total request for grant funds of $729,758, focusing on operating funding, in particular for organizations and groups within the county. From the 47 applications, the committee is recommending funding for 40 applications totaling $396,878. 7 community enhancement grant funding applications are being proposed to be declined. The board respectfully submits the attached recommendations to Wheatland County Council for consideration of the 2021 Community Enhancement Grant Funding. The board has followed its guidelines in making these recommendations and extends its appreciation and thanks to County Council for the opportunity to be part of this community enhancement initiative. Respectfully submitted, Marcy Field, Chair, Community Enhancement Regional Board. Are there any questions?
Any questions regarding the work of the board?
I have a question. I understand, most of this is in operating funds. And was this always been this way? Did these halls always need operating funds from us to carry on business, or did it start when utilities went up? I don't know.
When this program came into effect, it was for, originally it was to put money into the communities, and a lot of it was going into new builds. And I know I was the one that put it forward. I said, it's not new builds that they need money for, it's maintenance, ongoing maintenance. So that's basically a lot of what it has been, is ongoing maintenance to these buildings that they had already in place. Some of it is new buildings, new construction, but the majority of it is for maintenance. That's the hardest thing they can.
Yep, Marcy, please.
This year, there was a particular switch in focus with slightly more money going to the operating, as due to the pandemic, there is additional constraints on the communities without being able to rent out their halls. The way the board evaluated this. We started and went back to it. We started at the beginning and then went back to reevaluate. And we changed our formula based on letters from the community associations this year, indicating that this is a particular need for them just to be able to maintain the halls during this time when they're unable to rent them out and hold activities in them in the same way. This is what they explained was their greater need over doing some of the other projects. In the past, it was very different in how we could evaluate and perhaps more of the ongoing needs.
Yeah, a good strategic pivot, I think, for right now for sustainability for the community organizations. I think that was really wise, and I appreciate that you had that flexibility to do that, and I think it really speaks to the value of this fund for the work that's done by those volunteers in our community groups. On behalf of council, I can't thank you, Marcy, and your board enough for the work that you guys did. I recognize it would be challenging this year, particularly trying to do things virtually, and we really, just on behalf of council, really do appreciate the time that is spent in reviewing these applications and looking at them with representation from each of the divisions and prioritizing. And on behalf of council, thank you to you and your board, and also just I'd like to thank the community organizations and the volunteers that do so much of the work that make Wheatland County what it is. So please extend that to your board, Marcy.
I will. It is an incredible honor to work with the people of the board and to see their collaborative nature. As a group, they look at the entire county serving it and recognize regionally where perhaps projects can be postponed for the betterment of perhaps other elements, other groups in the county. And I have incredible respect for the other people that I'm working with at this time. They really come together and they take the time to prepare. It's a great group of volunteers and representatives. So I thank the councillors for getting that kind of group working in each of their wards.
Thank you, Marcy.
Is there
any other questions? We do have 2 resolutions that have been recommended. Page 18.
I'll move that the council approve the 2021 Community Enhancement Grant Funding for $396,878 as recommended by the Community Enhancement Regional Board, and that this amount be funded from the Community Enhancement Reserve.
Motion on the floor. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried.
I'll make the motion that
Thank you.
council approve the Community Enhancement Regional Board terms of reference for the 2022 funding cycle.
Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you so much, Marcy. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll move to 3.7, Division 7 Council Report.
Yeah, thank you. I gotta apologize. Margaret phoned me. I'd completely forgot about it, but there wasn't much to report this month anyways. Most of it's already been discussed. The Drumheller Solid Waste are still moving forward on schedule with our TransStore replacements. There's been a few hiccups, but it is still going along. Sewa, I have a little bit to discuss on that, but I can't do it it has to be in camera, so I'll do that later today. Just a question for council. And other than that, it's everything I've done has been council related, and it's all on the website. And I'd just like to thank the crews for getting the road issues in my area cleaned up. I had a couple of them this spring that was left over from last fall. That one slump that cost us a little bit of money, but they did finally get it cleaned up. And the Raymond Hill getting that cleaned up for the movement of machinery. So thank you to the staff for that. With that, I'll move my report.
Any questions for Councillor Armstrong? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Yeah, we can take 5. We will reconvene at 10:18.
Mute off. This call is being recorded. This call is being transcribed.
It's 10:19. Call the meeting back to order. Reeve Link had to step out again for another meeting, so we're on to 4.1.1 CAO Officer Report.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. Just a couple items I'll just kind of touch on briefly. So we're almost complete our 2020 annual report. There's just kind of a few missing pieces. We just had to wait for our audited financial statement to be complete. That is complete, so we just have to work on a few minor outstanding items. Our safety audit is underway right now. So this is an internal year. What we do is we do these safety audits annually. And one of the big benefits of doing these safety audits is that we receive our core certification, which results in a WCB rebate as well as just general staff safety. We are actually doing a very good job with this, so we've definitely automated some processes as well, which has cut back approximately 300 man-hours of just certain forms. We're working on rolling out our digital vehicle auto checklist, and that's actually going to be a big time savings as well, and that's kind of just projects that are being done with internal resources, so we're definitely kind of looking forward to that. In the Agriculture Department, we had a grain bag rolling demonstration on April 22nd. And also strychnine sales continue, so those will probably wrap up in June as always. We also analyzed some options for Township Road 272, which is coming to council later in an RFD. We conducted some gravel crushing at our Christensen pit, so about 100,000 tons. And then as for in Rosebud, we're working on that lagoon project. So Parkon is just about complete the lift station there, and NIB is doing the lagoon. So that project is underway. We're using one of our new positions, the project management / asset management specialist, to specifically manage that project, which is going very well. So the lift station, we just have to wait for it to be complete because it's got to tie in with the lagoon. So that should be done, I believe, mid-July. We're also going to get a capital project listing of all projects on the go in the county. And what we're going to do is we're going to publish the project, the start date, and the anticipated complete date, and have that posted for everyone, for public and council to see. There was a comment made earlier about the WHMB engagement on May 13th, so that has been posted on our Facebook page, and we're just about to get it up on our website. And then, as Councillor Armstrong also noted, that the Raymond Hill is now reopened, which is great, and I believe that was open as of last week, so about midweek that got reopened. If there is any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Looking for a motion to accept for information and discussion.
I'll move the report as presented.
Thank you. So is there any questions for Brian? I had one, Brian, and it's more on the core. Being that we don't have a dirt crew anymore, is it still required of us to be in core certification?
Yes, through the chair, I believe so. I'm almost very certain of it.
Okay.
Lots of other places do it. I know a good example is Drumheller. So I believe we go on a 2-year rolling cycle. So 2 years internal, 1 year external, and we do switch auditors. So the last external audit we actually did with the town of Drumheller, and they would not have an internal road construction crew. We do have the road repair crew, which is very similar to the dirt crew. just kind of a smaller scale. So I am very certain that would still be required.
Thanks. One more question. I had some questions from residents about when we got rid of the equipment, that there was a policy in place in the county that we had to, if it was over a certain amount of dollars, we had to go to the public. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss that. And it was from a former counselor told me that one. I don't know if Ben would remember or Glenn.
So we have an asset disposition policy. Yeah, so I would have to find that exact policy, the exact number, but we would follow that policy to a T. We wouldn't stray from that policy either. What I can do is I can get that policy maybe at lunchtime, and then I can just circulate it to council. Very confident that we would have followed that policy. There would be no kind of stray in anything that we would have previously done.
Okay, thanks. Can you remember anything, Ben? No? Glenn, are you on the line?
Oh, there, did the mute. Yeah, there's a policy, but I can't say anything specific about it.
Okay, yeah, it was just from a former counselor saying that if it was, it was pertaining to the road crew, that if we were to dispose of that, we were supposed to have public engagement. And I said, I've never heard of that before, so.
I'm not sure. I'm thinking there's people out there would have appreciated the public engagement, but I don't know of any policy.
Okay. Okay, all I said in response was that's an operational thing, so I didn't feel it was necessary, but just want to make sure we didn't miss some. So there is a motion on the floor. Any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that is carried. We'll move on to 4.2.1, Agricultural and Environmental Legislative Appeal Committee appointments.
Deputy Reeve Clausen, just a question. Would it be possible to get a resolution behind the May 4th Council resolution tracker of information as well?
My apologies. Councillor Eckert has made the motion. Any questions? Any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that is carried. We'll move back to 4.2.1. Thanks.
Morning, Council. Russ Muntrath here. The Legislative Appeal Committee appointment RFDs on page 107 of your package. Legislatively, we're required to have appeal committees in place. If we issue a notice under the Weed Control Act, Agricultural Pest Act, or the Soil Conservation Act. So, and historically, these appointments have just been brought forward at the organizational meeting, just under list of other committees. And historically, we've had the Subdivision and Development Appeal Committee appointed under the Weed Control Act and Pest Control Act, and then our ASB as appeal committee under the Soil Conservation Act. So just moving forward, what I would like to do just to have things a little cleaner and just to make sure that we're following our legislative requirements, I want to do these appointments yearly. So they'll be done at the organizational meeting moving forward. So Resolution 1 is to appoint the Subdivision and Development Appeal Committee as an appeal panel under the Weed Control Act and the Agricultural Pest Act, and then for Council to appoint the ASB as an appeal committee under the Soil Conservation Act. The reason they're different is just legislatively, the Weed Control Act and Ag Pest Act does state to appoint a independent appeal committee, whereas the Soil Conservation Act states that the appeal committee shall be the board, which is the Agricultural Service Board. So yeah, with that, if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from Council? Staff are looking for 2 resolutions.
I'll move the first recommendation for resolution number 1, the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board as the appeal panel for the Weed Control Act and as an appeal committee under section 14.5 of the Ag Pest Act.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. There's a motion on the floor from Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Okay, I will call the question. Is there any opposition? Don't see or hear anything? That is carried. So we're looking for a second resolution.
I'll move that council appoint the Agriculture Service Board as the appeal committee under Section 14A of the Soil Conservation Act.
Thank you. Councillor Bigger has made a motion. Any discussion on that motion? I will call the question. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried. We'll move on to 4.2.2, Township Road, 272 slide repairs.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. So on page 110 of the agenda package is kind of a problematic section of road on Township Road 272 that we've been having problems with over the last, I'd say, about a year or so. I have kind of inserted some pictures. We have discussed it a little bit at Council as well. And what we also did was we kind of just included a map just so all councils would be aware of kind of the geographic location of this problem. So it's kind of almost right in the middle of Rosebud and Down, kind of just looking at a map. But we did try a repair internally to kind of get this fixed. So last year we spent about 3 weeks. We rented some equipment, had some labor hours in there, and it's kind of right back to where it started. And it was very shortly after. So unfortunately, this slide, we probably will need an external contractor to kind of complete this work. The work would take about 35 days, and after that, it should be fixed. So that, if there is any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any
I
questions?
thought they'd already started on that. Sorry about that. I thought they'd already got in there. But I have no objections to getting in there and getting it done, that's for sure, because it was the day after they pulled out with their equipment that it fell another 3 feet. So there's something going on underneath there that needs to be fixed.
Yes, Councillor Armstrong, through the chair, that is correct. So we did go out there last year and did try to just mitigate the problem with pit run. Just some kind of things that we thought may work, and unfortunately it did not. It was literally the next day after 3 weeks of work, some equipment rentals. It went right back to square one. So we tried for a fix that would work, and unfortunately just did not. I think it's part of the soil stability that just kind of needs to be addressed at this point. So thank you.
So staff is looking for a motion to authorize repairs with an amount.
I'll move that we authorize emergency repair of Township Road 272 up to the amount of $650,000 to be funded from the unpaved road reserve.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. There's a motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion?
To administration, I would assume that they will go with option number 2, or if option number, because can they guarantee option number 1? Because if you get it all ripped open, then realize that there might be more problems. Just
yeah. So kind of the way it would work for us is that if for some reason option 2 was not working out, we're confident. There is actually quite a few engineer reports that was initially provided to me. We did take them out of the package just because we didn't really think it would be super relevant for council to kind of examine the 60 pages of kind of reports. But if there is a problem with option 2, it'll definitely be coming back to council for information for further approval. Our engineers were confident that option 2 would work, and it's the more economical option. Thanks.
thank you.
Just as a reminder that it wasn't that many years ago, 3-4 years ago, that the same thing happened half a mile east and about a half a mile north of that spot on that same coulee on the 569 and the government's road. They had to go in and do similar work in there, that the side of the shoulder fell away. So I don't know, something's going on underground there that we're not aware of.
Interesting. My question would be is there any kind of warranty or holdback or anything like that for the contractor work if it does fail again?
So there would be a holdback, to the chair, there would be a holdback for sure. The holdbacks typically are 10%. And I believe the holdbacks are held for up to, I know it's a few months for sure. I usually see them over year end, just in the accounting records. I could find out the exact timeline that those holdbacks are held, but it would be examined by our engineers as well, just to ensure that the work was completed adequately and they thought that everything was kind of secure and there would be no further issues on that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? There's a motion on the floor from Councillor Armstrong. Discussion on the motion? Any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried. Good to get that fixed up. We'll move on to 4.2.3, Nameka Hall lease and license.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you, yep.
Excellent. Bryce, Manager of Technical Services. The Nameka Community Hall has been under the care and use of the Nameka Community Club for many years, but we haven't had any formal agreements in place for that operation and use of our facilities. So we have worked with the Nameka Community Club and negotiated a lease agreement for the building and the land it sits on, as well as a license agreement for the MR lands that surround the hall and that are used as part of the hall operation. The lease and license would be for $1 a year, commencing immediately, and would be for a 5-year term with potential for renewals after that. So we are recommending or requesting council accept a lease and license agreement with the Nameka Community Club. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Bryce. Any questions for staff? We are looking for a motion.
I'll move that we accept council accept the lease and license agreement with Nameka Community Club for $1 a year which includes MR lands for the next 5 years.
Thank you, Councillor Eichert. Any discussion on the motion? I will call the question. Any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. We'll move on to 4.2.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bryce. We'll move on to 4.2.4, Lakes of Muirfield Private Road Maintenance Agreement.
Good morning, Council. It's Matt from Administration here to present the RFD Lakes of Muirfield Private Road Maintenance Agreement on page 148 of your agenda package. This recommendation from Administration is just really to clean up and get a resolution behind the signed agreement that council would have been after the facts circulated on. So the executive assistant would have circulated you on the agreement signed by both the Homeowners Association president, the CAO, and the Reeve. We in fact didn't have a resolution behind that agreement. We typically do. It is important to note that this past winter of 2020 to 2021, we did conduct this work. However, we just want to get a resolution behind the agreement. So that is the intent of this request for decision. I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll put forth the motion on the floor that council approve a private road maintenance agreement with the Lakes of Muirfield Homeowners Association for snow removal and street cleaning of the roads owned by the Lakes of Muirfield Homeowners Association within Phase 1 of Muirfield within Plan 0710284 based on the information as presented in the RFD. This will be for us to look after the roads. We look after the second phase already. A motion on the floor.
Do we own the second phase roads?
Any discussion? Any questions? I will call the question on the motion. Any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that is carried. We'll move on to 4.3.1, Corporate and Financial Services Report.
Good morning, Council. Tracy from Corporate and Financial Services. A couple highlights from the report to Council. The 2021 tax and 2020 assessment notices were mailed on April 23rd. Taxes are due June 30th, and the final date for assessment complaints is July 2nd. An AV project has been initiated to install individual screens in council chambers, as well as the Carsland Fire Hall. Our on-premise IT services are being transitioned into the cloud, and that has just begun. And IT and finance are creating a new tips form, and that's under development. The installation of the 640 Township Road faded sign address signs are expected to be finished by mid-May at the latest. As you're aware, Canada Post has transitioned mail delivery, and that is only within RR1 and RR2 addresses only. It does not affect any other mail delivery in the county. It did impact Wheatland County Administration Building, so we have been busy changing addresses displayed on our documentation and informing vendors, etc. The Munisite to Esri migration project has begun. And lastly, although we submitted our asset management grant fund application on the very first day of the application window, we are lower on the list just due to the number of submissions they received. It was a very high number that they received. So we have been checking on and asking for updates, and it's anticipated that the county will not receive the grant until 2022. And so the asset management software project will need to be postponed until that time. And as the CAO mentioned, our project management manager is busy with the Rosebud Lagoon and lift station, and that's been identified as a priority. So asset management, although there's a few minor tasks being done, that is on hold at the moment until those projects are complete. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions on the report?
Have you been getting any calls from residents over this mail transition?
I will refer that to our IT manager, who is dealing with that under GIS. Corey?
Hi there. Yeah, through the REEF, Harry Kim, our GIS analyst, has been fielding some calls from the public on that, but he's been referring them to Canada Post, who's supposed to be handling all of the address change questions that are coming in. Apparently everybody did get sent notifications in their mail with instructions of who to call and who to contact if there are problems or if people do have questions.
Okay, thank you. I just had a few calls on the weekend over some of it, and I told them just to contact the office in here if they had any issues. I didn't know who else to send them to. So,
Councillor Armstrong, we did have the media contact us, and we asked them actually to contact Canada Post directly, just so that they have accurate information within administration. We have been talking to Canada Post, and depending on who you talk to, you may get a slightly different answer. So,
and any more calls, that's where I'll send them.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, through the REEF, if I can interject as well, it was requested by Canada Post that anybody having questions regarding their address change to just contact their local post office.
Yeah, being one of the people that is affected by it, the notification gives you a year to change everything over. I know there's a lot of people that are panicking and going to registries right now. I've seen the lineups there. I've told people there's several other registries in the area you can go to that are less lineups.
With the exception of your driver's license. It's 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're not going to go after you on that. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, so that's people, I guess, are trying to get their driver's licenses changed over. And of course, with COVID, people are more sensitive to being around other people. So I just suggest going to there's lots of different registries to go to. So
I actually went to, just a personal anecdotal, I went to the Strathmore registry to get my license changed because it's might be expired. So I stand in, grab a ticket, and they're serving number 4. My ticket was number 77. My mother-in-law went there 3 hours later, and they were serving number 55. So,
But there is other ones in Standard, Beisker, Chestermere, and I mean, our local ones getting inundated because of the two, our divisions are getting it, right? So, you know, you can go to any registry and get it. I know Beisker, for instance, I go up there and you go in and out. Standard, I understand, is the same thing. So yeah, I mean, and they're private businesses, so it's good for them to support rural too. So,
and I just want to just give a kudos to staff and administration. Those new signs, the new signs replacing they're fantastic. So you can actually read the signs going down the road now at night. So that's really good.
we are looking for a motion to accept this information.
I will make that motion.
Councillor Eichert has made the motion. Any discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. Any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that is carried. Thank you for the report. We'll move on to 4.3.2, broadband update.
Good morning, Council. My name is Amanda Garner, and I'm the project consultant with Tricon Solutions for the Wheatland County Strategic Broadband Initiative. The broadband project update starts on page 161 in the agenda, and I'm looking for this report to be passed as information. At the top of the report, you'll see the project timeline in green. It has been updated to reflect the current status as of the date of this report's submission. The project is progressing on schedule and on budget. As part of the broadband initiative, the team will develop a strategic broadband plan that will outline industry standard high-level broadband options that could be available to the county. The strategic plan will be non-technical, and the county will be looking to the RFP respondents to provide the technical information, including proposed network designs, costs, and phasing to support their proposed technical solutions. The strategic plan and supporting information will be available to Council in the July 6th Council meeting ahead of the recommendation. This is to allow enough time for Council members to digest the information provided and meet with the team to answer any further questions if desired. The county's RFP process will be followed, and Council will be provided with a recommended option in the August 24th Council meeting. This completes the broadband update. Thank you.
Thank you for the update. Any questions?
You're welcome.
We're looking for a motion to accept.
Also move.
Councillor Bigger has moved motion to accept as information. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to 4.4.1, Community and Development Services Report.
Good morning, Council. Matt from Administration here to present the April 2021 Community and Development Services Report. A couple of highlights starting on page 168 of the agenda package. For community services, our next quarter plans we're looking at, obviously as a result of approving the CURB applications earlier this morning, we're going to be working with those projects that are on county land. And we're going to begin planning and coordinating the Eagle Lake Boat Launch project launch parking area capital project in the next quarter. On to economic development, as Councillor Bigger has noted, we have been very busy in this division, obviously working on the next level signage project logo, the first component of that project. So we're looking to evaluate some of the corporate engagement that we've done, that we've just received information back on this morning with regards to the survey. Online presence, we're beefing that up, and we're constantly evaluating and implementing new tools on our online Infinite WC economic development portal. I circulated the updates to Council yesterday. The WC Mercantile Value Added Ag Chain initiative, as well as WC Conversations, online YouTube podcasts that we've been doing with residents, organizations, ratepayers across the county and in fact throughout Alberta. Another themed initiative that we're going to be soft launching is the WC Experiences. So that'll focus on the tourism sector. I made note of that in yesterday's circulation with regards to that, with regards to our improved website. And the Investment Attraction Action Plan is being implemented. And as promised, we'll bring back a fulsome report in a May Council meeting with regards to return on investment of serviced hamlet areas, as well well as various other investment attraction initiatives. And I'm also happy to let council know that the Carsland Train Whistle Stop Engagement Project, we executed that yesterday. So we sent out notes to solicit feedback from businesses and residents in Carsland. So we're happy to get that going. So we did that yesterday. It'll be about a 3-week engagement turnaround. So I'm looking to bring a report back as to what we heard to council, and then we'll act from there at council's direction. On to page 169 for fire and emergency services. Obviously, we've had a fire ban that usually pops up when you log onto our website. I'm also really happy to note about the training. There's a huge emphasis on the training program that our new fire administration have conducted. So just at the bottom of page 169, you'll note some of the training, the live fire training, livestock rescue, Voint alert, and the rest. So we're very happy to continue rolling that out, and we've heard nothing but good things. With regards to the Carsland Fire Hall updates, you can see that on page 170, 171. We've definitely, we're definitely on track to complete this by mid to late August 2021. So we're hoping to get some substantial completion and occupancy at that time. So that's quite exciting as well. And we've heard some good feedback in terms of our PR that we're providing updates to the community for as well. And you can see some of those updated progress pictures on page 172. In terms of planning, development, and safety codes, you'll note an increase in development permits year to date, and we've definitely been noting that as well. MPC doesn't typically see those because we bring discretionary, but a lot of permitted use development permits are going through, so we're busy in that regard as well. And then finally, for protective services on page 174, we're doing some of the work that we'll be doing and bringing back in May and June is a review of a few bylaws, just some cleanup in that regard. We've recently cleaned up those policies, so we're very happy to report that as well. That concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of information here. Any questions? I have one for Fire and Emergency Services with the gear and the SCBA. Is that for just our departments, or is that for the rural ones as well? Or fire associations, or can we answer that?
I'm going to have to get back to you on that.
Sure.
And I can provide that and circulate council.
When I see this, I'd always, like, I don't know if, I should know if it's going into which one or whatever. So.
Yeah, in terms of getting clarity on that, we can do that for associations as well.
Would be fine.
For sure.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's good. Any other questions? Looking for a motion to accept.
I'll approve the report as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any discussion on the motion? Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried. We'll move on to 4.4.2, Severn Creek Dam Recreation Area. Morning, Dave.
Dave Ryan's Community Services. Parts on page 220. Package. Council's direction on moving forward with. Yeah, just last year we hosted no camping at the.
Just Brian from administration. Dave, could you just ensure that your microphone's on? Thank you.
Sorry, it's on. Maybe get closer.
So just looking for council's direction on the Severn Creek Dam Recreation Area. Last year we did post it because it was under agriculture general, so camping was not allowed use, and just provided day use for that area, as well as COVID protocols didn't we couldn't effectively meet those protocols, so another reason for not having camping. But since that, we've rezoned that parcel, which would allow a campground if council chose to go that direction, as well as the COVID guidance for campgrounds currently is something that could be met fairly easily right now. So if council wanted to move forward on allow camping in that area, there'd be some logistics around the camping minors for 25 sites, so there'd be a requirement to do, and for a 3-week period. So we'd have to we'd have to track that somehow, either through self-reservations or online. And I did look online, and there is an online platform that just charges $5 a booking, and the rest goes to the municipality or whatever. So it could be set up fairly cost effectively on the online booking kind of end of things as well. The other thing would be setting up sites, so there'd be some signage, and then if we wanted to provide picnic tables or fire rings, there'd be that cost as well. So neighborhood, if you wanted to set all that stuff up, it'd probably be in the 75,000 range. So that's just some real broad-based numbers, and I guess just looking for direction from council on which way they want to proceed on this.
Basically just looking for direction, but feedback from us?
Yes, if we wanted to move forward with the development permit for a campground in the area, or just leave it as a day use area, kind of what it's been.
Well, I have a question then. We put that in place in 2020 because of COVID, right? There wasn't supposed to be any camping there because of the COVID thing. They were camping there for years before that. Some old guys go out there and camp there and fish there all summer long. Why can't we just let it go back to what it was? Why do we have to change what it was? You know, why if we just pull the camping notice down that we put up a year ago, then it would go back to what it was before. There was no problem out there before. Was there? I don't recall there being any. There was some a while back over the washrooms, but they changed that. They put some different washrooms in there. But these old guys go out there on the weekend and they camp and catch a few fish and drink a few hot coffee, and there's not a lot of issues coming out of there. So why?
So what if we did?
I agree with Ben. Like, it's been used for a long time, and I believe if you were to drive out there right this instant, there's probably some camping there now and fishing.
Yeah.
They like fishing. They fish there all year. Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to interfere with the other campsites in the area, because what these guys are doing out there, they won't do on those other campsites. They're going out there to have a night off and go fishing. They're not going to Rosebud anyway, so.
No. And I've not heard any complaints or concerns about Severn Dam. Like, it doesn't cost us a whole pile of money to maintain it the way it is. We have picnic tables there now, and we have places for fires now. And we use it as a demonstration for shelter breaks, and we cut the grass. Yeah. It's just a nice place to have in the county that accommodates a certain clientele. The only problems over the years is the odd time there gets to be a gathering of high school kids, which can keep them awake at nights, I guess, be polite, but that doesn't happen very often either.
Any other questions?
I think if you need a motion to allow camping, yeah, but for the rest of it, for developing sites, I'd say no. For the length of stay, there was a time an older couple from the county camped there all summer long, just because. Yeah, I haven't heard any problems or concerns from the residents on it.
So I'm hearing no interest really to form any kind of campground there, and I understand why. I mean, it's mostly the budget, right? You don't want to put a bunch of money into something that's, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. But I can understand staff's perspective too. If there is a huge problem there, then they have no power to do anything with it. So
we still have our police officers, or they've gone out there a couple of times. They had to go out there a couple of weekends ago, I think it was, because of some as Glenn mentioned, it's some bit of a party going on out there. But if we just remove the sign that we put up, and it goes back to what it was before, what damage is there? Like, the more we put in there, the more we have to spend in there. Then we got to maintain it to a different level, and then it'll start bringing in different people. And
government grows in not a good way.
It's been fine the way it has been. Just pull the sign down.
Sorry, I neglected to, in my original presentation, we have received complaints from the operator at the Rosebud campground that we don't charge for camping in that, and we allow camping there as well, right? We could also do low tech, just booking, not having sites, not anymore, and that would solve that issue. But just the booking wouldn't cost any money, and it would also follow our kind of requirements in the land use bylaw to only have 25 sites. We only take 25 bookings, as well as the 3-week stay, right? We need to track that some way so that in the land use bylaw it's a 3-week stay. So that's...
So through the chair then, here's a question. So you're only allowed 25 sites. So you go out there and put all the money into setting up 25 sites, and the same old guys show up when the 25 sites are full, and they pull in there and they park. What are you're going to send the police out to chase them off? And if you don't fill the 25 sites, what have you gained?
We are definitely opening ourselves up to hiring more people for enforcement. And this is not going to, you can't charge enough money. So
do I have to book to go to the Gleason campsite? So we're going to do that over there too?
28 sites, so unless we wanted to really get on the 3-week stay around that much.
Yeah, I just don't think you touch anything, just trust people. I know government has a problem with that.
I don't know if I've ever been by there. There was always, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 maybe. I've never seen 25 out there.
Never. Yeah, we've lived there. Well, you've lived there a hell of a lot longer than I have, but I don't.
I would assume that 3-week stay thing would be a complaint issued basis, right? So if no one complains about it, I mean, I hate to say it, but this is more of a thing of, ask permission than.
Well, I know you've got complaints from what's his name at the Rosebud site, but like I said, the ones that are camping here aren't going to go to his site anyways.
Yeah.
They just aren't. That's not who they are.
Right.
So there's no trees really. There's no water. There's no
service.
No service. So
there's outhouses.
Completely different camping.
Totally different. Yeah. I would just say maybe if you need a motion, just to leave it for a year, and have it come back if you receive more than 3 complaints or something.
No, don't even have it come back. It gives the opportunity for it to come back, and we don't.
Yeah, well, don't put it in the motion then. Just leave it as it is.
Hang on a sec. Matt, did you have something to say?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Through the Deputy Reeve, just to council, in the same spirit as Councillor Bigger, just put, obviously, Dave's looking for direction, either the recommendation or basically a motion just to kind of proceed as is. I believe there's some signage there. You kind of take that down and just kind of continue as is, but something behind it in order just to proceed, just to solicit council's direction on this matter.
Well, I'll put a motion on the floor, and thank you very much for looking into it and doing what you've done, but to go back to pre-2020 and pull the signs down.
Donna had a motion before. Did you want to?
No, I was just saying, debating.
Perfect. Proceed.
Is that good enough?
Can you just repeat the motion,
To go
please?
back to pre-2020 and pull down the signs.
Through the Deputy Reeve, yeah, that should suffice for direction. Thank you.
Motion on the floor from Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion on that motion? Any clarity needed?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I will call the question. Any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried.
That's good that you think God's a woman.
Sorry, yeah, when you hear a strange voice, sometimes you wonder if I'm the only one hearing it. We'll move on to 4.4.3, Carson and District Community Association and Agricultural Society, request for letter of support.
Good morning, Council. Matt from Administration, here to just present briefly on page 184, the Carson and District Community Association and Ag Society request for a letter of support. The recommendation is in front of you on page 184. I received some correspondence from the Executive Director of the Association, and they intend to apply for the Canadian Parks and Recreation Association CPRA ACPL grant that has a Youth Employment and Skills Strategy Program available, and the request is attached to the RFD. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions?
I'll move that the recommendation be accepted and a letter of support be given to Carson Ag Society.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. There is a motion on the floor. Any questions on that motion? I will call the question. Any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, seeing none, that is carried. I've been asked...
We're in a bit of a hurry for that letter, too.
I've been asked to change, we're going to go to 4.4.5 first, deferral of payment for business-related development permits.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Claassen.
Page 192.
Exactly. On page 192 of your agenda package is the development permits fee deferral program. The Council recalls on April 20th, 2020, it approved the fee deferral initiative for businesses and related development permits. This is an incentive that we, as administration, instituted in order to provide relief to business-related development permit applicants, and we're looking to do this again. As noted in my department report, development permits are speeding up. We have had one inquiry so far, but we're looking to launch this program right away again, and we'll let all inquiries, all permit submissions, let them know that this program is available to take advantage of. Thank you.
Thank you. This aligns with municipal affairs too, what they want us to do, so that's good. Any questions for staff? Looking for a motion?
Well, they're going ahead with their development, they just don't have to pay.
Fee relief. Yeah, please use your microphone. Sorry.
Right. So they're just, they're not slowing down the development, we're just pulling back on the fees for it. If they can afford the development, what's the issue around the fees is, I guess.
I think it's a province-wide, pretty much what's been happening. So to promote development, make it easier for businesses and less costs is, I believe, unless there's something else I'm missing.
Yeah, no.
But you're going to ask them to pay that fee eventually, right? Sorry.
Yeah, through the Deputy Reeve to Councillor Armstrong. Good question. This is an incentive program that allows governments, municipalities to provide some sort of relief to those who are experiencing upfront difficult costs for them to invest capital into their projects, so we're providing some sort of relief. We do have a program in place in terms of tracking this and then reminding those who receive permits, who applied, to then pay. It's part of the program, but it is ultimately just, in summation, it's a fee relief program to incentivize development and to assist those who have, you know, the hundreds of dollars that it costs for certain fees, and it ranges, to invest that into their project as opposed to right up front the application process.
I guess my question would be if we didn't do it before, we're doing it now, and we're using the excuse because of this COVID and the cost. Well, is it does the development have to be related to the business if they're expanding or what they're doing? Does it have to be related to some issues around the COVID, or is it just because we're being nice guys?
It's for business-related development permits. So we're providing for relief for those business-related development permits, business developments.
An example would have been the Rosebud. She wasn't a retail store, but she did this marketing to get
But it was
produce.
related back to, the reason was because it was related back to the COVID that she had to make some changes to her business. That's what I'm getting at.
Yes.
It's not, but we're saying it's a blanket.
Yeah, it's a blanket, yes.
For everybody.
Oh, it's a blanket for everybody, yeah.
Yeah, so for business-related development permits, similar to what we did in 2020, it's the same process for those that want to take advantage. Now, for council's information, we did have business-related development permits that did not need to take advantage of that. They indicated that they could pay up front because they had the funds to do that back in 2020. It's for those that it's an option.
The funds will still be collected.
That's correct.
It's deferred, so.
Whatever.
For me, being a business owner and, you know, for anybody brave enough to do anything in this unknown economy and it's challenging, right? At the best of times. So this adds another layer of it and it kind of gives some incentive maybe. We're still collecting the money. It's going to be deferred. So it's encouraging growth. I don't see that's that bad of a thing.
Yeah, I understand it. The deferred part is, I know they did the same thing with, not in Wheatland County, but in Hazard with my son and the business we operate there. Council come around and said, we'll defer your tax payment, we'll defer this payment, we'll defer because of, and we said, no way. I said, then if we defer it, then eventually we got to pay it anyway. So if we can't pay it up front, then we got bigger problems. So we didn't. So anyways, whatever.
They have that choice too.
Good discussion. Did anybody put a motion forward? I don't think so. Looking for a motion.
Also move.
Councillor Bigger has moved the recommendation. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that is carried. We will move to 4.4.4, supporting Alberta business temporary patios.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. On page 188 of your agenda package is the RFD for information for supporting Alberta business temporary patios. I'm presenting this report as information for council's information. More recently, Minister Rick McIver circulated a note to municipalities, obviously highlighting the challenges that businesses are experiencing throughout this pandemic, specifically the food and beverage industry and those that have patios and would like to expand space to accommodate more patrons. Obviously, there are restrictions with inside food and beverage dining. So this is just a way to streamline the construction of temporary patios. We have at Wheatland County have had some inquiries for those that are interested in taking advantage of this. So we are working with a couple of businesses, Carsland Hotel and Carsland Restaurant and Lounge of note, and moving them forward with the process. So we do have a process in place. We do have an application form we have constructed internally in order to move forward. Of note, many municipalities in the Calgary region are taking advantage of this. I have been informed that the City of Brooks has as well. So it's a very advantageous and a very kind of good-spirited development process that we can implement here to accommodate those interested. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think as we can see right now, temporary patios would be a challenge for a business with a big thunderstorm rolling through. So that's the reality of what patios are, weather permitting, and it does offer some help for these businesses because they can't do anything inside, but that's
yeah, and I don't have that I agree with. I don't have an issue with that. But I have a side comment. Can I apply for a patio license so I can invite the neighbors over for a drink? Because I can't invite them over for a drink now, but I can take them to town and go sit on a patio and have a drink.
It'd be temporary. You have to take it down after they leave.
Interesting and good question, Councillor Armstrong. But we evaluate, obviously, the use that the applicant is applying for, their existing use. So we evaluate that. And, a single detached dwelling, yes. Yeah.
Just tell us.
But good question.
Just tell us when you got it.
Has there been, just kind of on that same line of thought there, community halls, any community halls looking for patio space?
We have not received any interest.
I know a few of them have them already, so.
Well, they're not allowed to hold anything, actually.
They have patio. But that could change today, so, yeah.
And the
So this is
patios are
just
on the road.
This is just an information item, so we're just looking for a motion to accept as information.
I'll move that we accept it as information. But yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion on that motion? Further discussion on that motion? I'll call the question. Any opposition?
Looks good.
I know. So excited.
Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. Glenn, are you getting rain out there?
It's not raining at my place.
Just a couple spits. Not really anything yet.
It's just pouring here at the county office right now. It's nice to see.
Yeah. I'm seating out at Rosebud today. Hopefully. We'll see. Either way, I'll be happy, rain or seed.
Reeve Link has returned. It's 11:14. I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you.
We are on 5.1, correspondence.
I do just have one thing since I made it just in time. It is a potential motion arising for council to consider, and it comes from Minister McIver's direction to try and get out of the way business, facilitate faster approvals.
It's not going to matter after today.
That type of thing. Through some discussions with some local developers and business owners, reviewing our land use bylaw, I've realized that we have some uses in our land use bylaw that are in some designations but not in others. So, for example, there's discretionary uses under agricultural that are not allowed under rural business. There's some under some hamlet uses that would not be allowed under rural business. And so...
Can you use just an example? If you have to pull it up, I thought you were usually on top of things.
You know what? It's actually
so
open on the land use bylaw is open on the other computer. I probably can just pull one up. No, I can't. But there are some that are not in both land use. So GM Boscariel had indicated that they are in the midst of looking at already some of the land use bylaw because of the energy district, the ag, major processing, minor processing. They're already doing some review. So if council wanted to consider looking at opening up further, whether it's permitted or discretionary uses within some of our land use zones, we could look at that now while they're already kind of opening up that land use bylaw.
Well, it's got to be pretty close to the 4 years that we have to open land use anyways. Wasn't it 2016 that it was open? Or 27? 5 to 7 years. I thought it was 4, but yeah. So it'll be coming up on that one end anyways?
And great question, Councillor Wilson. Through the Reeve, we do omnibus reviews. So right now, this would be considered a major. We're looking at multiple land uses, definitions, like we have a lot of housekeeping items that we've noted over the past, I guess, 2.5 years since I've been here. We've kept a laundry list of those too. So we're going to bring a massive omnibus review, suggested amendments of our land use bylaw to council for its consideration.
Because wasn't it 2016 that you guys did that? It was the year before the election, because I remember
It's a 2016 bylaw, Councillor Wilson. Yep.
Sounds good. What's your motion that you want to put forward?
Do you want some examples? I did.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, we don't have to. Like, staff could just...
Yeah, I trust you. Well, I trust Matt.
They're in that process right now, so keep it going.
Okay, so focusing on our land use bylaw, we want to ensure that we are continuously improving it and safeguarding that our ratepayers and businesses can get things done. Out of conversation with administration, we could revisit the rural business or even other zones and focus on best practices and recognizing that the situation that we're in, we want to be conducive to both retention of our businesses and expansion and attraction. Recognizing the importance of what a land use bylaw set out to accomplish, both strategic land use planning, mitigating nuisances, and ensuring adjacent uses work cohesively with one another, I would like to request that Council look at some of the discretionary and permitted uses within the zones, and just similar to what they're doing with the egg processing major and minor that Councillor Eichert had moved at a previous meeting. So I'll make that motion. Directing administration to just review the uses within some of the zones, ensuring that we're not precluding certain uses within different areas, just so that we're as open as we can be to development.
If we, like, when you're looking at this, when we, like, addressing rural business, can we address, or can you look at addressing how close you are to a neighbor? Like having a rural business in a really, like, if you were to go straight east of my place, I've got 18 or 14 residences on a quarter section of land there. Now somebody puts in a business in there, it's a rural business, and he is doing something that affects, like running equipment and that kind of stuff that affects people. Can that be addressed in that situation?
Through density somehow?
Through the reeve to Councillor Eichert and Council, that's absolutely part of an analysis of looking at definitions and particular uses and the potential for some uses to be put into another zone. That's exactly it. We would look at setbacks, density requirements, as Councillor Wilson alluded to as well. There are a myriad of elements that we need to look at from a planning and development perspective. So to summarize, depending on the use, depending on the existing uses in any existing zone that we're reevaluating, there's a lot of layers to it, but we do look at those setbacks. We do look at any subterranean infrastructure, any requirements for a new development that has to come in, densities, existing densities, proposed densities, all of those elements. So in terms of your question, how far away, the setbacks, for example, we will be looking at that.
And I think one of the best ways from my perspective to address that is where you leave things as discretionary, because I think that's the key thing. We don't want to be encouraging development that's going to be a nuisance or negatively impact people in a primarily agricultural area or residential area. But at the same time, we could be open to it where at councillor and PC's discretion, they can account for things like that. So I'd rather it not necessarily be reflected in the land use bylaw, but where you think there could be impacts on adjacent landowners, make that discretionary. Like that's the whole point of discretionary. And then it comes back for consideration to how do you, there could be businesses that work very well in that area that don't have those offsite impacts or impact adjacent landowners. There could be some that would, and then that would be up, to the deciding body to look at those and how to mitigate it.
And the problem is, like, and it's an information problem, because I'm looking to look up, if I'm moving from the city to operate a business out in the country, we can get that information out there that, yeah, property A is the same as property B, but property A is, the nearest neighbor is a mile away, as opposed to property B where the nearest neighbor is 100 yards away. Absolutely. Right? Like it's, I don't know, like, because, once I understand people wanting to move their businesses out there, but I don't know how we communicate the fact that, your business still cannot negatively impact on your neighbors, right? So, so good luck with that.
But that is what we use conditions for, like through landscaping or business hours or things like that are ways that the big thing, and I'm not sure how we do it, maybe we're at the place where we're already doing it, but I just think as much as we can streamline things and, be investment ready and streamline those processes for developers in the area, the better off we're going to be for the future. So, and I think it's absolutely critical right now that we're doing this and that we're ready.
I got a comment.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Kester.
In the last land use bylaw, that's why some of the land uses were not discretionary and weren't in some zones. It was so those businesses that were more impactful had to rezone, and the purpose of the rezoning was the public hearing. So if the neighbors around the dream business weren't happy, they could come and make presentation at the public hearing and then use that information. The lesser impactful things were more discretionary, and then some were just permitted. But that was the reason why some aren't in all districts, is to force a public hearing and get the ratepayers of the area a chance to publicly comment in a public hearing type setting.
Yeah, and fair comment. We would definitely need to be mindful of that for sure. Any work that would come out of this would just be for council's consideration, and we would definitely need to keep that in mind for sure, Councillor Kester. It's a really valid point. Any other questions or discussion on the motion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Move to correspondence. Just the letter that I referenced earlier from Mr. Taves, and also a thank you letter from Ostergaards regarding the plaque. I don't think any action needed, just a motion to accept as information.
So moved.
Deputy Reeve Clausen has moved. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. I'll now move us into closed session. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried.
Okay, perfect. I did provide